Clock. It's now 7 o'clock, and I'd like to call the September 22nd, 2025 Planning Board meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd all please rise. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty. Next item is the invocation. If you'd please all bow your heads with me, I'll lead us in that. Dear Lord, we'd like to thank you for the opportunity to come here tonight and gather to meet on behalf of the town. We'd like to ask for your blessing over this meeting, and we'd like to ask for your guidance and directions in the decisions we make tonight. For it's in your name we pray. Amen. All right, item number 3 is the approval of the August 25th, 2025 meeting minutes. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to review those.
I'll make a motion to accept them as delivered.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. On to the regular agenda item. First up is the housing plan presentation.
Good evening. For introductions, Mike Ellebarger, I'm the interim planning director. And item, I believe, is number 4 on the agenda, is to bring the affordable housing plan back to the planning board for another discussion point. If you recall, I think it was now 2 meetings ago, there was a presentation and there was a pretty good discussion, and there was a recommendation of denial from the planning board. And so we thought we'd bring it back. We have some slides here prepared. Some of the points that were shared that evening were given to the consultant who prepared the plan and allowed them to make some responses to that. So we've synthesized that into some bullet points here. We also do have that full document ready as a handout should we wish to hand that out and get into it a little further this evening. And then I just wanted to also note that when this is presented to the town board, which is already advertised and scheduled for October 9th, so 2 Thursdays from now, the consultant representative will be there, and a representative from Wake County's housing program will be there. And we do believe that any future topics with affordable or housing plans within the town of Rolesville will probably partner with or work in tandem with Wake County's program there. So 2 of those folks will be speaking to the Board of Commissioners when this is presented on October 9th. So we'll get into some slides here. Again, sorry, just the little history here. So it was July 28th when the planning board was given a presentation on the plan, and it was received with a vote of 4-2 for denial. And so we thought we'd bring it back here to address some of those concerns that were heard. Obviously, these slides here on the screen, everybody can kind of read them and digest them themselves. I will try to not overread them too much here. There was a concern or a thought about the level of detail that this particular plan went into, and the explanation is that this is a higher level plan, not a immediate implementation, kind of boots on the ground. Here's exact nuts and bolts of a program to help folks get into housing. So it is that first blush and higher level strategies. And again, there was comments about no creation of programs within it. And again, this is the first step towards eventual housing programs to be created. And as noted there, we do hope to partner with our friends at Wake County and even nonprofits across the region. That's bullet number 3 there. How would this plan dovetail into working with developers and builders, those who build housing as a profession? One of those considerations was looking at the land development ordinance and how maybe revisions could be made to it that would foster greater creativity and creation of more affordable housing dwellings within the town. And a lot of that goes down to land and infrastructure costs. And then bullet 4 here, discussion of the increasing density. One way to lower the cost of housing is to literally lower the costs to build housing. And some of that is land, some of that is infrastructure, some of that comes down to permitting fees or impact fees. All of those things go into the creation of every dwelling. And so to do that, though, usually the smaller the property, the smaller the per unit infrastructure costs, the lower that housing price can be on a competitive market strategy. So that does equate to density, though. Rolesville has a very low density across the board residential subdivision, history. So to get more affordable housing that's not simply market rate would most likely entail higher densities of housing, meaning smaller home lots and really smaller homes as well. The appropriateness of the case studies, there was some concern about, that's one of the phrases I love to use, apples to apples comparisons between some of those towns and communities and Rolesville. Sure, some of those were not exact types of comparisons to, we're currently a 12,000 member community and things of that nature. So some of those case studies might not have been good examples or the best examples, and that is fair. Purpose of the plan, again, this first plan for housing is about setting a vision at a very high level. This is step one of countless steps to come on the topic of making housing more affordable in the community. And then recommendations versus regulations. I think this was about where is the tangible outcomes from this plan that will start to change development laws, development standards, et cetera. And that's just not where the community is at this point. Those are further steps. Those could be steps 4 or 5 or 6, so to speak. This is step one to set that first plan. So again, we've brought this plan back to the town or to the planning board to see if there's any further questions or clarifications that the staff here who are present can give you about this. Again, we have the answers to the questions that the planning board, put out there back on July 28th. We can hand that out. We can do more workshop on this evening if you'd like, but we are seeking another recommendation, hopefully a positive recommendation for when this does go to the board. At the very least, maybe some more inputs from the planning board as to what you feel the plan might better serve the community with changes. And that might even just set the tone for what those next steps are, the first steps of implementation. After this plan, should it be adopted, what would be that first step? And the planning board could certainly help set that tone with the Board of Commissioners. So that's kind of what we're looking for tonight. So kind of open it up to all of you. If you have any further questions, if you felt that some of the answers to the questions maybe were not fulfilling, the intent of the question, we can certainly try to get into that tonight. And I would definitely encourage you all to come on October 9th as planning board members and represent, your thoughts on this to the planning or to the Board of Commissioners.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nope.
Town manager would like to say a few words.
All right.
First of all, good evening.
David?
Thank y'all for serving on the planning board. We know that it's really, really important. Thank y'all for making time. I wanted to drop in just on the microphone's low, so I have to do this split stance thing when I come to here. I'm usually sitting there. I wanted to come just talk about the plan and just how we utilize plans here at the town. And so your concerns for the level of detail and not creation of the programs that y'all had highlighted, I went back and watched that and also had Mike go back to talk with the consultant. Those are legitimate concerns, right? We're focusing on getting the plan in place because the program comes later. In the same way that we've kind of had to be more strategic in tackling some of the big topics that we have to do as a town, we've had to put more effort behind those things in the form of the plans that come before the program. So an example of that would be our CIP plan. We had to do our strategic plan, come up with our CIP strategy in order to bring that those bones together to be able to put meat on the bones, which we did. And so we were able to, by getting that internal CIP plan together, we were able to work with Davenport and others to be able to come before the board, come before the community, and we end up funding it by way of the most recent housing revaluation assessment. And so that has made it possible for us to take those particular
ideas we had with our CIP to the community and partners to make our funding in the LGC, to be able to make it possible for us to fund our CIP program. Similarly with the housing plan, there are certain grants and certain partnerships that they won't even allow you to apply for because there's a checkbox that says, do you have a housing plan? But we partner to get the funding for that. Over the past conversations we had with Wake County have been around, everybody has their idea of what affordable housing looks like. And when we come to them, they say, what do you want your programs to look like? Well, the conversation that we need to have around the programs, we hope that we wanted to involve you all as well. And that's something that we have to start tackling with the vision of the town, because we're working on a joint meeting with you all and the RDDA and the town board. And this will be something that comes up as well to add the meat to the bones of this housing plan as well. And so essentially I just wanted to come and just talk with you about it. One thing that we don't want to do, I believe in to engage with you all and not to move forward because the planning board not approving it is something that's really important to me, because I know that in past iterations and the other place, some people just keep going. But I don't want to move past this. And so I want to make sure that it has everything that you all need in it to get your support and to advocate for it. And then also, if you have more questions, that we can help get those answered. But in general, the purpose we set forth for the housing plan, it met that because we knew that we would use this as the bones to build the housing program on. We're working on several different things within the town to help make sure that we're in a position to be able to do that, to fund those programs. And that's a multi-year process to put the funding aside to do that. And that's why, and so we're working on the initiative with the Affordable Housing partnering with Habitat for Humanity. So we selected them about a month ago, and that's going to help come and lead into this this unified conversation about it. And we'll be coming back to you all to engage with you all on that perspective on that too, on what the programs look like. Because everybody has a different definition of affordable housing, but that definition is really, really important for establishing a program that meets the vision of the community, you all as extensions of the community, and their voices and experiences, and also the planning, the town board, which is also an extension of the people that live here, their experience and their personal definitions of what affordable housing look like. So it's not to say that the things that are missing and not including this, we are going to be putting the meat on the bones with that, and we want to be able to do that, have a plan in place so that we can build on that. The same way we did with our comprehensive our complement class study, the consultant gives us this, and then we take it back and work with HR, myself, and other departments, and even the department heads, and we've edited the thing that they've given us. But we do plan on editing this using the feedback you have, and we will gladly bring it back to you as we keep working on it. And we also would love to work with you to co-create what that looks like, because the conversation about this plan started conversation that we've been needing to have around affordable housing and the housing plan as well. So I wanted to just come and just say that to you, like, yes, those things are missing, but that was supposed to be in the next phase of putting the program that supports the plan together. And that's something that we're working on with staff, and we want to also want your perspectives on that too, to flesh out the definitions of these different things and have these conversations as well. So we're not stopping with the plan as far as building it out and building the programs and finding the fundings. It's a multi-year, and it's also a multi-pronged effort with even how we are engaging with economic development, because our tax base, that's a big part of it too, and diversifying that and being very, very intentional on pursuing more commercial businesses that help take the weight off of funding these plans off property owners and move towards looking at the commercial tax base as well. But in general, I've kind of talked about a few things kind of rapidly, but in general, I wanted to really engage y'all for more questions that you may have, because they may not be able to be answered right now with this plan, but we will do that when it comes to building out the program, because the program has yet to be defined. You raised some very good things that we need to have you all included on when we start building out the program. But having a plan that is fully backed by the respective boards, they literally ask those questions when you start talking about your housing plan. And I think it will really show that we're all on the same team. To do that, I'm not asking you to change your vote for the sake of pushing it through, but know that this is a conversation, and building the program is something that we're working on, and we want to engage you on that, to do that. So this is just the beginning of the housing conversation. I'm happy that it started now before we've found ourselves in a predicament and grown so much that we don't have room for certain people to be able to live comfortably, because we're still ahead of the curve on it. And so I'm just thankful that we are talking about this topic right now. And we want to keep doing that with you. But in general, I wanted to add that piece of clarity around it, is that it doesn't have the programmatic pieces in there, but it's supposed to be the bones that we add the meat to with that. And so expanding that vision, we want to take your feedback and do that. Even if we update the housing plan with the comments before we start moving into the programming. But the funding will definitely come it'll be a conversation this upcoming budget year, because we're kind of like the plan comes and then the conversation starts, and then the funding and how do you set it aside comes in the subsequent years. But I wanted to just share that with you and hope that we can have some conversation about it, because we want to make sure you all are comfortable with it. But just know that we are pursuing that, and we are building out those programs, and we're having meetings with Wake County on doing that too. But they just want to know, what does it look like for you? And this document helps us kind of start the conversation in doing that. But we're open. I want to say that before you open the floor to questions, I'll give it back to Mike, and we'll still have the questions, but I want to just add that in as part of the presentation, that context.
All right, thank you. Hopefully that clarifies a few things for a few people. But does anyone from the board have any questions, comments, concerns for staff?
Yeah, I'd like to clarify a couple of things, I guess. So in short, the plan hasn't changed at all. There's just, what you've provided are just answers or responses to the points that we delivered in our last meeting about this topic, correct?
The consultant's responses to
Right, so the consultants just gave responses, but the plan hasn't changed at all.
That's correct.
All right. And again,
Mr. Marsh said the plan could be edited after the adoption by the board, based on the board's input.
okay. A plan, my understanding, plans outline strategies, right? And then the programs then address the strategies. Is that a fair summation of how you guys are presenting these ideas of, you got a plan, outline strategies, you approve the plan that outlines those strategies, and then you come back after that and you create programs that basically fulfill those strategies. Is that accurate? Does everybody feel that that's a fairly decent statement that we can agree upon?
That's a fair way to describe it. I would say every project has a scope,
Okay.
and I would want to compare that with the
So then
scope.
what are the strategies, how can you summarize the strategies of this plan? What are the 5 basic strategies of this plan?
I'd have to look at the plan.
So we don't, okay.
So I think what I'm understanding is we're basically at the point to say, does the town of Rolesville want a 10-year affordable housing plan? And that's what we're looking at. Then next steps is to start the foundation, start building what that plan will be, more so than what we were presented 2 months ago.
Well,
Is that,
I think the Board of Commissioners initiating the project,
yeah,
asking staff to contract with the consultant, have a consultant prepare a plan,
Yeah.
and then review the plan,
sure.
is the initiation of a housing plan,
So I think we're at
which will
the,
become housing programs too.
right. So then we're still, step 1 is to start, first process, do we want a plan? Yes, I think everybody's in agreement, right? But next step will be, let's start the foundation, and then that feedback and that information will be coming back through the planning board as well, right? To just kind of further discuss, to work with the board of directors.
I would envision programs that do get created
Yes.
would get vetted through the planning board.
Sure.
And go through public input,
Right.
et cetera. Funding will always go through public processes as the board
Sure.
creates its budget, things of that nature. So, yeah, there's, if the question is more, is there more public input to come? Yes, there's always those opportunities. I use the analogy of tip of the iceberg. That is what this plan is. It's the beginning. It's the first foundation for it.
Yep. Okay.
For any programs or implementations or anything about housing affordability.
I guess, I don't know, maybe when we had it presented a couple months ago, it was kind of like, here's our plan, do you like it or do you not? And I think now it's just more so, do you want a plan to get started? And I think that's probably more so where we're at.
It is by the consultant, filling out the scope, it is a completed plan.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean it's absolutely 100% the final. We're looking for input from the planning board. It'll go to the town board, and then the town board completely controls it at that point.
Sure.
It's their plan.
You mentioned that that the town would work with Wake County in funding any implementation as we move forward. Have you gotten any feedback from Wake County as to, or have they reviewed the plan, and did they have any feedback as to what the plan says?
My understanding, yes, they have looked at the draft plan. We will have a representative at the October 9th Board of Commissioners meeting from the county to weigh in and kind of say, this is our take on this plan. This is what dovetails well with what the county does today. This would be something new, et cetera. We have programs in place that could accomplish some of these, higher level goals. So yeah, that's occurring. That will continue to occur, and that's the natural first stop for the town. Will go to the county, which has these programs, which has staff departments established for this topic.
But as Wake County reviewed the plan, was there overall feedback positive towards what has been prepared?
I'm not 100% sure what that rating would be or their position on it. My guess would be it's the town's plan. If it wants to go left or right or center, that's the town's choice.
Mm-hmm.
We're all going down the road in the same direction, right? Finding ways to potentially make housing more affordable, more attainable for a broader brush of the population, which may not be able to own property in this town.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? I guess, so we would either need a motion to approve or a motion to keep the recommendation as
That is
previously?
what's requested this evening, yes. You can stick with the motion from July 28th if you wish, or you could entertain a new motion. And recall, like when we have rezonings or text amendments here before you, can always add any add-ons that you wish to the board. You can make a recommendation for one way or another with feedback to the Board of Commissioners. So, and that's what you all did last time. Those were the comments we heard, and that's what we went back and worked on. So, if you go with the July 28th recommendation, it will be that recommendation of denial with all of those topics. And again, we've already had the consultant review all of those and provide some responses to them.
Okay,
So that's what would be carried on to the board.
all right. Any other discussion?
So you're saying as it stands right now, the plan that's in its denial stage, right, has the comments from the previous board meeting amended to it. And that's what will go to the planning, will go to the Board of Commissioners if we don't say anything here tonight.
The write-up document, which was writing down all the comments and concerns and et cetera that the board made with the answers from the consultant
Right.
who wrote the plan, that will go as a support document.
Okay, so our comments are supporting it, the contractor supported, his comments are then added to it, and then those three things together go to the Board of Commissioners, and then they sit there and they look at all of that and decide what they want to do.
Yes, we will include the feedback from the board, for the planning board to the Board of Commissioners, which will be the July 28th comments that we heard. We capsulized those, and then we gave the consultant the opportunity to respond to those or provide just a response to those. That will go along. That is your recommendation, in essence. Think of it that way. That is the input that the planning board has provided with a recommendation of denial. And again, if the board takes another vote this evening, should it be any different than that, all of your input will be chronicled and we'll very likely take it again to the consultant and say, this is what the planning board had to say on September 22nd. Please provide your input as the author of the plan as we take it to the next step to the Board of Commissioners.
To put it simply, your feedback and your comments will be used to update the plan. Right. What we want to do is get.
Sorry, can I just jump in real quick?
Yes.
So our comments are going to be used to update the plan.
That's correct.
Before it's submitted to the Town Board of Commissioners.
So when
But, right, I mean, that's what you're saying, right?
it'll be with it,
It'll be with it, but
it'll be with it.
the comments will be with it, but the plan's not being updated.
Yes. Well, so the plan itself won't be changed. I don't want you to think we're not changing the plan. So the goal is to take this document, bring it before the board with your comments, and then also get the board's comments on that, and then update that plan for a final approval. It'll be an amended plan. And so we want to it's important that they see the journey of the document and see your feedback as it calls those things out, because there are conversations that need to be had about specific things within the plan. So the definition of affordable housing, right? That particular topic, since I've been here 3 years, has had 10 different names. It's been workforce housing, it's been affordable housing for seniors, it's been affordable housing for teachers and firefighters, there's been affordable housing as far as like the low end, like let's talk about $200,000, $250,000 homes. And then in the conversation with you all, there was an example of how do we make a $400,000 home, a $300,000 home. And so those particular things are very, very important when it comes to your feedback on it for them to talk about, because the strategy and the mechanism you use to help resolve that particular gap, close that gap, changes dramatically. Because like, for example, us as a town, we don't have a census tract, right? Our average take-home pay or average pay for a resident is above the threshold that would allow us to get certain things that come with low-income neighborhoods, because we don't have a census tract that identifies a low-income neighborhood. But we're also very rural and have this USDA type thing that we can attack. But who we are serving, what the resident we're serving and the situation that they're in dramatically impacts the, a mortgage person will call it a product, but the things that we can pursue to help close that gap, right? And so this document to us as staff right now, from our perspective, is the vision and the defining of those things and determining who are we really serving within our community, because that, the defining of that has been a journey in itself, right? And so when we take the housing plan to the board, it'll have your comments so they can see, hey, the planning board is really, they have questions about this. They want to see this. And so they'll see the regular document. It's just like a legal document we have that have the comments. But you see the original recommendation that came from the consultant, because the consultant works for us and they also works for us. And so they help, we rely on them as professionals to bring the bones to us. But in the comments, we go back and we work with them to say, what are the strategies you can use to do that? And Wake County has been very, very supportive in doing that, but they kind of need us to get further in who we are going to serve with it. Because it's a big difference in the strategy and the mechanisms you put in place for the people that make the resident or whomever that earns the 200 down as far as like the cost of a home, and then 200 up. And then if it's age restricted, and it's 55 and up, these things make a big difference on how you do it. And so, but to let you, so I'm not saying that the plan itself won't be edited, but the comments will be attached to it so they can see how your comments go alongside it, like read throughout the plan. And so we'll figure out how we present that to them and say, on this particular section around this, we want to see more than that. And they will likely agree with that. But when I said earlier is that stuff kind of fits into the program of it. So the strategies, we really need to get clear on who are we serving with our affordable housing, right? And that's a conversation I know I have to slate for us to have at a later date. Because the more we talk about it, the more perspectives we get. But it's going to come down to us engaging with the board and saying, who are we trying to target? Are we trying to serve all these people in residents that have been highlighted through the conversation and the journey and development of this plan? Or is like, do we really just want to focus on workforce housing right now? Or do we really want to focus on age-restricted housing right now? Because how we do it really comes down to that particular decision and getting on the same page about the definition.
But is that question supposed to be answered in the plan?
We answer it it'll be answered in the plan, but we're going to update the plan once we get, with your comments and with the board's feedback on that.
So you'll update the plan with the
Yes.
with the Board of Commissioners?
Yes, but they still
feedback.
need to see the original plan.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're gonna see it, and if they see it in 3 weeks and they say yes to it, they're gonna say yes to something that's not been updated?
So
Or they're gonna say yes with all these conditional
I think we're saying the
updates?
same thing. So they'll see the original plan as it has been presented by the consultant.
Right.
And it'll have the comments attached to it
Right.
that show your feedback as a planning board. And so ultimately, the plan is something that we take to the board with your feedback, right?
Right.
But we're going to attach those concerns in that, and we'll say in there, so we need to fund a program. Well, I'll say we're going to build a program as a result to underpin and support the advancement of this plan. And right now, the things that this program will highlight is based off past comments from the board, which is affordable and workforce housing. There's been a clear intent to do age-restricted housing, but then also how do we add this additional comment, like you made a comment about how do we make these homes more affordable. That particular resident will be in there too. And so your comments will be added to it, and that's how we bring the plan to life, if that makes sense. But we have to bring it to the board for them to approve like what that strategy and approach with, because as a staff, we're equipped to run with it in whatever direction you choose. And depending on which direction you choose, there will be resources, there will be people and agencies and partners that we'll partner with that. But it's important as far as what we bring to the board to have the original plan as it has been presented by the consultant, then also add your comments to it so they get all of it at the same time and they see the journey of the document. We don't want to change it or update it to where they don't see what it used to say. That makes sense? You know,
Not really. I mean, I get why that's important for certain situations, but all the things that we've ever seen and come through this way, when we provide feedback, like Harris Creek, you know, we completely denied that one, and they came back later with a bunch of changes that changed everything, and those kinds of things get modified and then brought back to us, and then we're like, oh yeah, you did all these things that we asked for, yeah, let's go ahead and prove that. That's what I'm struggling with. How is this different? How is this a different process for a plan when the plan is for affordable housing versus a subdivision? That's what I'm struggling with understanding, is how come our comments aren't incorporated into the actual planning document?
It is.
They're they're like, they sound like they're being treated as footnotes and not changing the actual structure of the plan. And that's what I get concerned with, is because I've been here long enough to see comments being made in meetings and set on the side as little, you know, side notes, and then them just being completely, you know, just never ever seen again. So I'm just trying to understand how you actually incorporate feedback into a plan before it goes somewhere, like I've seen other things do. Like I said with Harris Creek, every board member on this board said 6-0 no. They came back 3 or 4 months later with a bunch of changes, and we said yes. That's what I'm trying to understand what the difference
But
is.
in my mind, I don't see a plan for housing to be the same as a subdivision, because the subdivision is more technical. There's an LDO that attacks it, that points to it. There are specifications from it. Like, I don't see those two things as being the same. For them to be, there's not apples to apples, so.
Well, there is with respect to feedback. I mean, if a
Right.
particular plan, we're saying the greenway's in the completely wrong place, or there is no greenway at all, then they come back and they put a greenway in, then the feedback has been incorporated. And if we say, hey, there's nothing about land acquisition in this affordable housing plan, hey, there's nothing about any conversation about a land trust, then how come there isn't a line item added into the plan saying, hey, yeah, there's a good strategy to incorporate a land trust in your affordable housing program, and then you go through your steps that you're talking about, where you have all these other strategies that the programs come later. I get that, but But that first part, how come that doesn't get brought
That will
into
be
that
included.
plan?
Yeah, the mention of the land trust, that'll be included. Those are previous conversations we already had. Concord's doing great with that. Those conversations we had even in the journey of the affordable housing project the initiative we have on the properties behind Town Hall, that's included in that conversation. And like, what would be the path forward? Do we put it in a land trust and we lease it out? Do we have to own it? Do we want to defer that to Habitat for Humanity, or do we want to partner with Wake County for them to help administer that program that's attached to it?
Right, those
All
are the program,
comments- all
those are
those
the
comments will
program
be-
details you're talking about.
Right, all those things will be included, will come subsequently be attached to it, but I just want you to know, like, your comments are not going to be overlooked. I'll make sure that, like, I think your questions, all of your questions and yours specifically, are really, really important for us to answer with our plan, right? But that's going to help add the color we need to it and update it. But it's important for the board to see the original plus your comments that are be inserted within it that relate to those certain sections, so that they can see the full picture. Because I don't want to open with the plans that go up for the board, right? I want for them to approve. Same thing we did with our strategic plan. We had public input sessions with that. They received all the comments in our strategic plan, and it reflecting all the people who came in to talk about that. And this will be the same as well. Your comments will be attached as comments on it, but this is a little different from our strategic plan, because this housing plan will help us tactically tackle those things, and that's why we haven't built the programs out yet. But I want to just let you know that we're not going to just breeze over the planning boards thing. That's why we came back. That's why I'm here. We're not breezing over your comments. We're not using it as a footnote. It's going to be a point of conversation for how we keep building out the plan. That's literally why we came back. I was like, we got to talk about it more so they can understand that. And so if that's a concern, we can do that too. Is like, how do we make sure that your concerns and the comments you've made on it don't get overlooked and become a footnote? That's a legitimate concern that we can include with that, and that's the sentiment we can take to the board as well. It's like, look, this is really important for us to have more conversations about it. And if we need to do, like I mentioned, the upcoming meeting that we'll be having with you all, the RDDA, we haven't let you know about it because we're finding the date. You all, the Downtown Development Association and the town board, that'll be a joint meeting. Do we need to do this? That's around the future vision of Rolesville, and like, we'll be defining certain things like, what does growth look like? What does business look like? What does our ecosystem look like when we go forward as like with the shared vision of these three different bodies that have different experiences? We can do the same thing with the housing plan as well. Like, how do we define affordable? Who are we really targeting? But ultimately, the reason why we roll it up to the board is because they are the town board, And so, but they'll get the comments. We'll make sure that they're highlighted and they're included. There are some things that stand out as being super clear that we'll edit right now. But in general, we want to make sure we're having a conversation around this plan when we take it to the board, so that when we run with it, well, I say roll with it, it's kind of informal. But so when we run with it, we know that we are not checking our rearview mirror, and we take everybody's comments and concerns into account when we build the programs, because they're very tough to build. And the people that have the funding for it, the state agencies, they're strapped for money, and they're looking for agreement. Like, typically, if it was 7 years ago and we didn't have full buy-in from a planning board, sometimes you can go forward. But they really want to know, like, if we give you funding for this, is everybody backing this plan? Is everybody on board with it? Because it really, really matters, because there's not as much funding out there as we think. And we're in a very peculiar situation where some of the things that are great about living in Rolesville play against us when it comes to finding programming and partnerships. And so I just think it's important that I just highlight that. I've said some things, but we're not going to breeze by it. It's not going to be a footnote. And it's going to go into how we turn this into that finished document. And we've learned that you can do case studies and do all this stuff, but our experience here in Rolesville is very, very different. And we have to take the initiative as staff to be the subject matter experts and make sure we build out the plans that fit us. And we knew going in, just like with our comp and pay study, that they're going to give us something based off their research, and it's not going to match directly with what we know we need to do too. And so they gave us the 85%, but we had to work with staff and our HR director and say, this is how we put the icing on this cake. And this will be no different than that. But we're not going to breeze by it. I'll keep saying it over and over because they say it's a rule of 7 times for somebody to really know you're passionate about it. We're not going to breeze by your comments.
Well, I guess my last question is, what is the definition of affordable housing in this plan then, as it's going to be presented to the board?
Yeah, right now, with your motion and approval, you all say that affordable housing is something we want to pursue. The definition of affordable housing, even you brought up something that is a different perspective, another perspective, because I think of like a diamond, but there are multiple different ways you can approach it. But the most important thing is like we want to do something around affordable housing. And so the definition of affordable housing to date has been workforce housing in general for people that work in some of the commercial businesses here. Those, as we get more restaurants, those are your waitresses and people that are on the service industry. Affordable housing has been mentioned by our board. In our community, it's been workforce housing for police, fire, and teachers that are here because they have to drive so far. I personally mentioned affordable housing around our staff and our inability for our staff to live here. Currently, we have a very small percentage of staff that work for the town that live here, and the average commute is about 25 minutes when I surveyed all the staff. And so those affordable housing there, and then there's the type of it kind of moves into accessible housing because it's not necessarily affordable housing. When you talk about, generally, when you talk about a certain price point in a house, if it goes above a certain amount, it's more about making it accessible and not affordable, because this is just the industry definition. If you can't afford a $350,000 house, it's more about accessibility, not necessarily affordability, because affordability is usually associated with a home that is a lower cost. And so bringing a $400,000 house down to a $300,000 house, that $300,000 house is that's more than what people consider an affordable home, right? And so me having to explain it that way kind of points to the fact that we need to have more conversation around it. But the goal of this is to have conversation and figure out what is our definition of affordable housing, because there are a ton of out there. The 4 I just listed are 4 that we've mentioned here in the town that has come as a result of the town board, even yourself, the last one, and then staff looking at what does affordable housing look like for us. And so those things are the 4 working definitions. I added yours to it when I watched the playback. Those are the 4 things that go into our definition of affordable housing, which will go before the board with this. When they say, well, what is affordable housing? Well, right now, this is how we define it. Workforce housing came from Sheila Sutton about 2.5 years ago. She introduced that language. And so, but this definition we have is like an evolving one. And I think a year from now, there'll be another one. But we'll add that in there as well. But that's our definition of affordable housing from a staff standpoint, and it's built off things that you all have mentioned to us. And we try to take the overall definitions that Wake County will give us or consulting and give us and frame it in that way. Because simply saying affordable housing doesn't really connect because it's such a ambiguous, like, big term. But those are the 4 things that's our staff's definition of affordable housing based off feedback we've gotten from you and then others in the past from leadership.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions for Mr. Marshall staff? Is the floor be open for a motion unless the board decides to keep their recommendation from the previous meeting?
Let me interject for just a second. So, because if you would like, the board would like to make a motion, here, we would be looking to amend the what we had done before, or it just remains as it was. Your decision before was to recommend a denial. If you choose that you would like to recommend approval instead, then we would say, I move to amend our past motion so that we would approve, or however. So you're looking to amend the motion if you so choose to to do so. Am I clear? Did that make sense?
I think so.
Because our motion before was to deny approval of the affordable housing plan, 10-year affordable housing plan. If the board would like to change that motion, then we're going to say we choose to amend what was done in July and we recommend approval.
We need a motion to keep the previous.
Nope,
one
I
as
think it
well?
would just stay in place.
Okay, so if there is no motion
Yep.
to amend, we just keep what we
Right,
have.
and if a motion to recommend, a motion to amend to recommend were to fail, then we would keep where we are. Is that clear?
I think so.
Okay, sorry if that was not clear. Thanks.
I guess with that, no other discussion, the floor will be open for a motion to amend, or if there is no motion, we keep what we had.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion.
All right,
I move to amend the approval of the 10-year affordable housing plan to include the July 28, 25 Planning Board questions and concerns, and also to include the consultant's feedback from the July 28th, 2025 questions of the Planning Board, because it is consistent with the Rolesville comp plan.
all right. We have a motion to amend for approval.
For approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion carries.
Thank you very much for your question. The motion included all of the comments from the previous meeting. We'll also include from today's meeting as well.
Yeah, we'll again synthesize this conversation, share that with the consultant, have them make responses to that. So we'll have two sets of basically questions and answers or comment response. Which I think are good to go with the plan. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, up next is on the regular agenda is the rezoning case 25-05 Scarborough Village.
Thank you very much. Good evening. This is an applicant rezoning application for a project known as Scarborough Village. I'm going to start my presentation, then ask the applicant to come up. I have previewed their slides and let them go through their presentation, then come back around at the end for the staff summation. Just to introduce you to the property, and this may seem familiar, this was brought forth to the board about a year or so ago for the same property, but a very different project. This property entails two address properties on Main Street, and the bulk of the property is actually addressed from School Street. It totals just over 13 acres. It's currently zoned the residential low density zoning district. There is a part of the property that's not in town limits at this time. It's the far southwest corner, which would have to go through a voluntary annexation process, and that would occur with the Board of Commissioners. The applicant is asking for a split zone of this property. The portion here we go. Right up here, this kind of square part, this is proposed to be a general commercial with conditions zoning district, and then the bulk of the property here would be a residential high density zoning district with conditions. The development is asking for up to 63 single family attached or townhome dwelling units on the RH zoning district. The commercial zoning district has no development proposed. It would just be essentially a blanket holding pattern for future commercial development. And that reference to the former application here was REZ 2305. I think at this point, I'll let the applicant come on up and do the presentation. They have a lot of duplicate slides as to the town policy and so forth on this particular property.
Good evening, planning board members. My name is Worth Mills. I am a land use attorney with Longleaf Law Partners here on behalf of the rezoning applicant and the current property owners. And I'm joined by Courtney McQueen with Cunity, who is the lead design expert for this rezoning. So again, just to provide some background, the properties that we're talking about are 0 South Main Street, 201 South Main Street, and 200 School Street. These combine for 13.15 acres, and they're situated in between Rolesville Elementary to the west and the East Young and South Main intersection to the east. Here's a look at the property from the South Main Street and Perry Street intersection. You can see the current single-family home there. The current owners have made attempts to rehab that single-family home, but the damage to that home is extensive, and the cost to rehab that building is extremely high. It's currently uninhabitable and a vacant building today. And then here's a look at the property from School Street. Most of the assemblage has been cleared, but for some of the trees along South Main and then the southeast corner near the stream buffer. So as Mr. Ellebarger mentioned, we had been before this board last year for a different rezoning case. That rezoning request would have amended the zoning map to change all of the property to a town center conditional zoning district. That plan had standalone retail along South Main Street, mixed-use buildings along this new collector street that runs north to south, with apartments within the interior of the site. The Board of Commissioners denied that rezoning request in November 2024, and the primary concerns when the board heard this case were over the density, the building massing, and the expected traffic that would be generated from the apartments. This previous plan had called for up to 240 multifamily units and between 10 and 20,000 square feet of commercial space. So switching gears to the plan before you tonight, as Mr. Ellebarger mentioned, we are proposing 2 separate zoning districts. So for the 1.72 acres nearest South Main Street, we would propose the general commercial conditional zoning, as Michael said, to facilitate future commercial development. And on the balance of the site, which is approximately 11.4 acres, we would be rezoning to a residential high density conditional zoning, which would allow up to 63 townhomes as shown on that plan. Looking at the gross acreage, the gross density of this plan, the 63 townhomes on the 11.4 acres would come out to a 5.5 unit per acre gross density. And while we have significantly modified this plan, we've gone from 4-story apartments, 240 apartments to townhomes, no more than 63 townhomes. We did keep a lot of those same zoning conditions that offered neighbors the level of privacy that they were looking for, both in those neighborhood meetings for the first plan as well as for the neighborhood meeting just a short time ago. Just to highlight some of those items that have remained, we would be requiring the documentation of that existing home at 201 South Main Street through photographs, detailed elevation drawings. Prior to any demolition of that home, we would allow any entity or individual the opportunity to relocate that existing home prior to demolition if they found a suitable location for it. We would also be prohibiting vehicular access to School Street, so staying away from the traffic that Rolesville Elementary School brings to School Street. We would be proposing to construct that collector road to the edge of the stream buffer with the opportunity to extend that collector road all the way to the southern property line. That's a shared boundary line with the town of Rolesville property, if that's approved by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. On the eastern side of this collector street, we would be constructing a 10-foot wide path, which will serve as part of the Greenway plan that leads up to Main Street Park, which is across Main Street. We would be constructing a 6-foot tall fence along the shared property lines of those 5 homes along South Main Street that abut the residential high density zoning district. We would construct a 6-foot tall fence along the eastern boundary of the proposed collector street, again, just to ensure that the privacy that exists for those neighbors along Perry Street today remains intact, providing that sort of eye level buffering. And then we would also be dedicating the 1 acre of parkland, which is in the southeast corner of the site, the area shaded in green with the vegetation. We would be dedicating that to the town of Rolesville, which would sort of coincide with the plans that the town has for its town campus center. The western part of the town-owned property is expected to be maintained or sort of stay as a sort of natural environment, less impervious, less building on that side of the town's property. So we think, by dedicating that to the town, it just adds to the overall aesthetic that the town is looking for and approved in their concept plan for the new town campus. And then here you can see what the 3 developments in this area, how they would interact with one another. So you've got Scarborough Village along South Main Street, and then coming down to the south, you have the Parker Ridge subdivision in the southwest corner of this screen, and then you have the town campus project that extends out to East Young Street. Parker Ridge is required to build out Street H, which is the street that begins within their development and then runs through the town campus property up to East Young Street. And then when the town campus is completed, presumably you would also have a new road connection. They would extend the collector road from our property boundary to this Street H, which provides for an enhanced street network for not only the residents of Parker Ridge and of Scarborough Village, but to help people navigate around the town campus center generally. So the current zoning on the property is low density residential. There are a number of general commercial zone properties along South Main Street. Again, bringing that portion of the site to a general commercial opens that up for new retail or office uses that can again sort of revitalize this stretch of Main Street and help sort of revitalize or continue the revitalization of downtown Rolesville. The future land use map designates this assemblage as high density residential, which has recommended densities between 6 and 12 units per acre. So for our 63 townhomes at 5.5 units per acre, we're actually below the recommended density for the high density residential future land use map designation. And then we are also consistent with the Main Street Vision Plan. This property is within the village core zone of that plan, which is highlighted in blue. There's an arrow pointing at the site today. The plan notes that this zone already includes commercial uses, retail uses, office uses, school, civic uses. And so this rezoning to GC for that 1.4 acres would just again further support this sort of commercialization of Main Street. The 63 new townhomes would provide new patrons for the existing retail that is along South Main Street. It would provide new customers for the retail that's going in just in the development north of here. And it would also support future commercial growth for this 1.4 acre parcel when that property or when that portion is ultimately developed. So again, just to provide an overview, the proposed rezoning to residential high density conditional zoning for 63 townhomes is consistent with the future land use map's recommendation of high density residential. And as I mentioned, our gross density is on the lower end of that spectrum for high-density residential. The rezoning to general commercial, again, will further the Main Street Vision Plan goals, facilitate new commercial uses, and help revitalize downtown Rolesville. The zoning conditions that we have offered are, a lot of them are holdovers from that original rezoning, which aim to maintain or increase neighbors' level of privacy, given the existing conditions today. And for those reasons, we think that the proposed rezoning is reasonable and in the public interest. I'll turn it back over to Mr. Ellebarger to finish his presentation, but Ms. McQueen and myself are available if you have any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll pick up on a few policy points here. Not that Mr. Mills did not hit on these. In this vicinity, the comprehensive plan, community transportation plan calls for those 2 new collector roads, one from the Parker Ridge subdivision out to Young Street, and then that more north-south one from Main Street through the subject property, T-connecting into that east-west connector that goes out to Young Street from what is now the Parker Ridge. For greenways and bicycle lanes, there is a greenway shown through this property, basically paralleling that new collector road, ending up at Main Street, right opposite Main Street Park. So it's kind of the tip of the very long greenway trail that goes all the way south of the bypass, et cetera, through those areas, all the way to get one to Main Street Park. And then bicycle lanes are shown within Main Street itself. That is, of course, pending NCDOT approval for continuous bike lane stripage, but the intent is for bicycle lanes there. Traffic generation was done, what's called a traffic generation letter, identified that this product here would only produce 430 daily trips. That's below the 500 threshold for triggering a full traffic impact analysis, and both AM and PM peaks were also below the 50 AM and PM peak trips. So a traffic impact analysis was not required for this rezoning, and that's why one's not coming with it.
Question on that. I remember the last traffic folks came out and they said the exit on the south lane at the time was going to be limited turn, like right turn only. Does that change because of the density?
So minus a traffic impact analysis to study this development and that new collector road, which again doesn't exist today. The DOT will perform a driveway permit study at that new intersection based off new volumes. Right now, existing Perry Street is what is in that area, intersecting with Main Street, and its volumes are X. That could be studied, and with trip counts.
Until you open up the intersection,
with trip counts.
The concern is that turns into a limited turn, and before the one where the complex is going in place, your exit out is going to be across Perry, and that's not a road that's built for anything other than 2 homes.
Right. So if the question is the new collector road, which is in the town CTP, will overtop or take the place of Perry Street that exists today.
Part of it, right? Because Perry turns the corner.
Where Perry intersects Main Street will be usurped or replaced by the new collector, exactly, which will be bigger, which would be sized for a left turn lane and a right turn lane, I would strongly guess. But the situation will be, most likely, it will be an unsignalized intersection. I would be surprised if the warrants proved that it would warrant a traffic.
It's going to block it. The old one, I remember telling at times it was going to be right turn only. Which if
because the left would be blocked by,
your best bet is to go up Perry Street all the way up to Youngsville, and then come back down the other way, which basically turned Perry Street into an exit. the one,
Yeah.
part of Perry Street that reaches into,
With the collector network built, this north-south one, the east-west through the entire town campus, I would imagine that if someone traveling there would go one of those two routes to get to Younger Main.
well, I think if once the north-south one
Mhm.
in the complex is there, that, the question goes away, right?
That's right.
It's much easier.
Sure.
But until that road's built,
Mhm.
then if I'm blocked to turn left on a South Main, then my best bet is go Perry out to Youngsville, come back across the intersection and come back down.
That's another left you'd have to make onto Young.
I couldn't make a left because otherwise if I'm coming out and I take a right, I can go all the way through the town of Rolesville, turn around in some parking lot up there and then come back down. So if I want to go, if I'm coming out of that exit and I want to turn left, I can't because it was blocked. Perry Street's my best way to do that.
I would say this, for this rezoning, we do not have the data to back up that.
People suffering enough from that intersection being closed. I see it all the time in there.
Okay.
Big trucks going there that shouldn't be there.
And that's, if I can build off of that, that's one of the reasons why with that previous plan, the suggestion was to leave Perry Street alone and have the entry coming directly across from Main Street Park. Then if you need to signalize the intersection, you'd have a legitimate four-way intersection that you can control, and it just moves that entry to the left side of the property that they're getting versus the right side and then hijacking Perry. And you can still create a decent entry off of Main Street on the west border, the west side of that piece of property, and still retain all the usage to the right, to the east, without messing with Perry, which is such a low volume, it's not going to have any kind of crazy impact on, oh, this driveway is too close to that street or whatever, because it's just, there's just not enough traffic from that small community. But by hijacking it, you're doing exactly what Jim is talking about. You're introducing a whole number of different ways of people doing what they've been doing since the road construction, going through that neighborhood. And to top it off, I'm surprised to see as much road frontage on School Street that they haven't figured out a way to use that as an entry point to this neighborhood, given that you've got a roundabout or a cul-de-sac, coming right up to it. I don't understand why the use of School Street is being completely thrown out of the picture here. When there's no houses, there's no residential. I understand twice a day it gets crazy because of school, but short of that, why are we not looking at doing something with School Street to accommodate a much broader, better entry into this proposal?
If I could, it could possibly be because the town we've had quite a few meetings with developers about staying away from School Street.
Okay, why?
It's not built for that.
Well, neither is Perry
not.
Street. Neither is.
It's not made for that. It's really a farm path that put some pavement on,
Perry Street isn't much better than that.
Well, the way they've got it drawn, to me, makes a whole lot more sense than trying to have two separate streets.
If I recall,
Plus, if I'm not mistaken, you have utility lines that are involved.
Utility.
The NCDOT will 100% control where any new road touches Main Street, obviously.
Right.
The feedback that NCDOT has provided through the TRC review of this and the previous iterations was that what the town's adopted plan, which shows exactly what this drawing showed, that's been vetted, and that is the best place for any new road, any improved road, any widened driveway, any road to be. It accomplishes two things. It builds the CTP road through this property, which will, again, will connect to that east-west road, take you out the Young. So a real road network. Plus, it improves the existing Perry, which is a deficient width, et cetera, entrance at Main Street. Getting two driveways there, again, just from experience, I would say that's not going to be ever approved. One would have to close. Perry may end up being closed if that were to be the case. Connection to School Street, I would say that's a great recommendation that the planning board should make to the town board with this case. We think that School Street should not be blocked off, turned its back to, but actually connected to for any development of this site. I'm guessing you're saying to distribute traffic. I would say perhaps when you come out to Maine from school, the situation Mr. Schwartz just explained could occur. Now you are several hundred feet farther south from the main intersection of Main and Young, which might have been the queuing situation that was explained, or the memory of what could happen where this new collector hits, because you are that much closer to that intersection with backing up traffic and making a left out more difficult or impossible at peak times. So those are all good suggestions. I would say this property's been vetted by the DOT several times now. Plus the CTP was adopted in 2021 with that road, showing basically the overtopping or the widening and improvement of where Perry Street connects to Main Street. If you think about it, there is no other street connection between the Main Young intersection. Here would be one where Perry Street is, and then this collector, then school, and then you get to the driveway to the elementary school, and then you're at Rogers Road and so forth. So it's kind of a systematic, location of driveways there. To introduce a new one in a new location could be problematic. But that's absolutely a comment that the board could make as well, that you feel that the CTP road should go further south through parcel 1, as opposed to taking over or replacing Perry Street at Main Street.
All right.
I will continue on, but we're
Okay.
certainly not the end of the conversation. Comprehensive plan consistency, as the applicant stated, the high density residential future land use category actually proposes up to 12 dwelling units per acre. This project is coming in just under 6 on the residential end. They are showing compliance with the CTP road network. The greenways are being shown in compliance with the greenway plan, and then placing some future commercial use along the Main Street frontage is aligning with the Main Street vision plan. So that is also a means of consistency. So I apologize. So through those multiple forms of consistency with the town's adopted plans and policies, staff is finding recommendation for approval for this particular rezoning. Again, we can have some further discussion. You've already had the applicant's presentation, so we're both here for any questions.
All right. Before we get too deep into discussion, I know we've got a few residents from the neighborhood. Would y'all like to speak in favor? Would you like to speak in favor or against it? Giving you your opportunity.
Nobody knows what Perry Street's going to be. You're talking about
If you don't mind, if you would speak, please go to the podium. So for the record. I'm sorry. If you are going to speak, you have to go to the podium.
I feel sorry. This has been dragging on for years for y'all. We're smart enough to know that something's going back there. All we've asked, the whole subdivision, we could get everyone that's over there to come, is to just remember, we live there, been there for years. Y'all are working with us good. We just ask that the traffic, and I don't understand, they keep talking about the town complex. Why don't you just go on and build that street all the way out to Parker Ridge that's supposed to be building a street? If I understand back months ago at a meeting, there's supposed to be a street from Parker Ridge over to East Young Street. Am I correct?
I believe so.
Okay, well, you've got a street. Get them to build it.
Yeah.
Get the town to build across that Donnie Woodliff's land that's just sitting there. Then turn all this traffic. Don't worry about Perry Street. They can't get into those townhomes if there's not a street off of Perry Street. Let them come in off of East Young Street, down Parker Ridge, onto the town property, into all those. It doesn't take a Philadelphia lawyer to figure this out. But traffic is hard.
one woman came in and apologized. I tried to teach. She sure did. She said, I was having bad hands. She realized it. I mean, we told the police about it.
Well, I appreciate your comments, and
Now, Bentley, block, in those, we ain't talking about schools. Of nails, 2 times. You know, all I can think about is somebody with a child. Get out on the bypass, going 67. I'll have to go, someone's going. The police is aware of those things, but you can't even fix it back. It's been done, locking up by Saturday with the magnet. Driving across that turn like that Bobby Mitchell and got. Y'all have nothing to do with it. But, you know, I feel sorry. This gentleman, I feel sorry for them, but why? Can't you just feel that strength?
I appreciate the comments, and I'll ask Mr. Ellebarger and staff if they can give us an update on what that plan would it be for the completion of that road
Yeah,
through the town
that
campus.
road is the heart of the infrastructure work for the town campus project. The obligation was originally tied to the Parker Ridge developer. That's been passed to the town through a payment. And so the town's plans will be engineering it and building that. And that is, that's the heart of it. That is the only real street in the town campus, as that applicant's exhibits kind of showed. It's connector from Parker Ridge out to Young. The buildings will either front on Young or take access from them.
Do you anticipate that the town campus site would take place prior to this subdivision being developed?
I'm feeling the yes.
So how unreasonable is it? Go ahead.
You know, we're including the building of that street in the site development phase of the project. And so, you know, the fire station, police station come first. Typically, they will, if you built the road, people say you need to wait until you build the town hall and the library. Honestly, we're not. We're building that road first. And so this will come before this. We'll be breaking ground on this, like, we'll start moving dirt late this year, early next year. And so all of the roads will be built in that in that project before we get to a town hall and a public library and all that stuff. And so it'll likely precede the development of here. But depending on how this, where this project is, we have an alternate, I'm about to say alternate, the emphasis would be wrong, but an alternate in there to build that road that comes up across. And so if we think from any approval of a subdivision will lead to needing that, if you show the depicted
Connector.
connector, we'll go ahead and do that and have it be a stub to connect to with this development or whatever comes from that. But depending on how that development and what have it works, we'll be pivoting on that. But we'll be building that all the way through to that Parker Ridge that goes to Redford Place anyway. So we'll be doing that.
So why can't that be the primary entry point to the community rather than Main Street? Why can't the Main Street property be the commercial entity that they want and just have access from Main Street to that commercial entity for parking and just for that, so that Perry Street can be left alone? And the main access to this subdivision would come from Street H that's being extended through the town property through a stub out that still apparently is pending Army Corps of Engineers approval. So that becomes another question.
It won't do well because the front property is that commercial property, it's gonna have higher traffic. So you have to have at least a frontage, that beginning part of the road wide enough to handle the traffic for a commercial.
Plus, we want to have the 2 ingress to it, entrance next to, for the property for the LDO. So we got to have.
Which School Street could be used
Well,
for.
I'm saying if they leave it like this and not use School Street and.
Right, and I'm saying if you take the cul-de-sac out to School Street and then connect Street H all the way out like that, you've got 2 entry points. And because School Street's only a mess twice a day, I mean, I don't know, I just have a hard time destroying one of the oldest communities in our neighborhood, in our town.
Take that road expansion goes into the new property, not into the Perry Street. It's really that first 50 feet that changed.
Right. And
Perry Street turns.
right.
on the wall.
Well,
Perry Street will be the.
it'll be connected, it'll be connected.
Be a T intersection.
Yeah, it'll be a teen center. And I'm suggesting that we don't need that at all if you can take the cul-de-sac out to school and then just take the main entrance to the community coming from the southeast corner of the property all the way through the town. And if the town center's road,
Well, I disagree. If you can, the commissioners have stated several times, in School Street, they just changed the problem, because School Street is almost as bad as Perry Street. And that's
Yeah,
the point. It
doesn't
just
it-
doesn't have the residents on.
Doesn't the transportation plan call for this connector as well?
Yes, please let me go back a slide or two. Yes. So the applicant is showing compliance with the town's comprehensive transportation plan to build that road.
But basically, that's a
They're
recommendation
being
coming
driven to
from the
do that
town.
by the town.
I
The
think it's
exact overlapping of Perry Street is exactly what the plan has envisioned.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the suggestion from the planning board could be to the town board, do away with this, with your own plans road, put it somewhere else, or nix it altogether. That can be absolutely a recommendation, but the applicant's not invented this road, and if that's been a misconception.
No, that's understood completely. I understand that completely. I just think it's a bad plan.
Okay.
I just think it's,
I kind of see it as with this connection, it would help eliminate some of the cut-through traffic through Perry, because now they'll go down this connector to the road that comes out of, coming out of the villages and get to Young Street rather than cutting through Perry any longer. I mean, it would be a different intersection for Perry there, but I think it would help, because people would probably much rather go down a wider road that's designed more for traffic than doing kind of the S's through the Perry Circle Way.
I have to only believe that that's the reason why it was drawn on the CTP to begin with. It was
That's,
an alternative route to circuitous routes through existing neighborhoods. And again, there were very few streets in this area when the plan was devised.
mhm.
And again, town campus wasn't even, I think, a vision at that point. So, but the street connecting from there, and again, the CTP, if you see there's also, School Street was also kind of a north-south-ish road through there. Now, a lot of that was modified through the Parker Ridge approval. Parker Ridge did not connect to the existing School Street. Parker Ridge did not continue bearing down through there. The solid yellow, that's Virginia Water through those multiple residential subdivisions there. So this is that School Street extension, so to speak, that would have happened. And that does not occur right now. Through the Parker Ridge development approval, that will not happen. So do these lines get modified over time and through developments? Absolutely. But right now, this applicant is proposing compliance with the CTP. And when you start to delete some of the lines on the map, kind of the ones that are left, maybe a rise in importance to being completed. Let's stop for that.
Would you like to speak?
From Maine to their southern terminus, yeah. Mhm. They're obligated to under the town's plan. Yes.
They're gonna build it to the end of their property, which then ends into.
Town campus. Yes, ma'am.
When it shows on one of the maps, there is a street coming out, crossing the town property over to Parker Ridge,
Yes.
okay? I don't understand why, these people need racial heart. These people need to know that they can build something back there. So build that street all the way over to Parker Ridge. Then take Parker Ridge over to East Young Street. You can
Yes.
solve the problem.
I
Yes.
think that's what they're saying.
Yes.
I think that's what Mr. Marsh said, is it will be done as part of the town hall campus plan.
And it will precede any private development of the subject property tonight.
So you wouldn't put a street in there until something starts being built there on the town, whatever complex, whatever.
That road is imminently coming from the end of Parker Ridge all the way to Young Street. That is coming in the nearer term.
So that street from Parker Ridge over to East Jones Street.
Yes.
What is called just Parker Ridge?
It will connect to Parker Ridge, but it will also provide full access to the town's property for development.
Why not speed it up a little bit? That one street, that one stretch on the town complex, so that these people, all the towns got to do is build that one little street from the end of their property up to
Right.
Parker
They're two different streets, but you're absolutely correct. The town will build the one to Young Street, and then if any development is coming on this property and would need that other stub to connect, the town would build that too.
Ba-
Yes,
right.
but that's the extension from Parker Ridge to Young, not the northern extension to touch this property.
Yeah, so from Redford Place Drive over to beside Patsy's house, that is gonna be done the end of this year, first of next year.
When and if needed, the town will build that. If no development is approved on this, then the town won't build.
to keep the traffic off of Perry Street.
Well, I think they're saying it is all coming.
Need to build.
Yeah, so we're, where's it right now? Oh, what's on yours? Sorry, they have
Can
it.
you share that screen?
Yeah, take your stuff down.
Got the image of this. Multiple projects.
The reason why we're gonna build that road that, we'll be building the road. I don't know what the name of the road is.
Street H is coming from Parker Ridge and coming through the town property. That's Street H for now.
Yes. Oh. Yeah.
So Street H comes from
Yes.
Parker Ridge through the town property to Young Street.
Right, and so, is it in laser form mode?
And this is the stub out that the town says they will connect to Street H from the,
So that's
from
Street
the,
H going all the way through. We'll build,
Okay, it's not like
so we're gonna be building this road to go through,
that.
right?
You got that street right there, right?
Yes, the reason why,
Right here, don't even come close to that street.
yeah, so that can be, so we just put this, we know that this area, this edge of this property, the edge of the town property that faces, I don't wanna lose the microphone connection. So we know that that this road right here will have to be somewhere here based off the property lines here. So that's why all of this is just left open. We're in site development phase right now, and this is a road that is just, however it lands, however they end up here, like they can come here and curve, however it's here, that's how we'll connect. And so this being not matching up, we can solve that one very easily.
Why not, supposedly something's gonna be built, the town complex, whatever.
Yes,
So go on, it would be cheaper there than 5 years from now, build that road from that street over to Parker Ridge.
yes,
Then people can come off of East Jones Street.
we are building that. Yes, ma'am. We're building all the way to here, Street H. We're building this one. That's approved.
Why can't they?
Yes, ma'am. Why can't we approve it? So this project doesn't exist yet. If this gets approved, so right now, the reason, so initially, just so you understand how we've been doing, when we had the initial site plan for this property, y'all can't see my hand. When we had the initial site plan for this property, this road was not gonna connect. It was just gonna, let's make sure that we make it to, we had a roundabout here, so we can get into the town campus. As this development progressed, we knew that there will be a real connection to do it. And so we worked with that developer to build the road all the way through. If a development is approved on this property, then we'll have to add this in too. Right, but the decision comes down to how the approved site plan will be on that property. I've seen it in my last 3 years, three different efforts I'm trying to. And so there hasn't been a concrete thing to connect to. But we plan for that in our project to add that connector road in there. How that road looks like once you get off town property into that development, that's something that'll be taken on within this site plan. I mean, be it this iteration or a future one. But we've taken into account to be able to connect to whatever that road is, whatever the name will be there, if it exists. And so if a development comes through and it says it's going to come that way, we'll build a connection to get to it.
All right. Thank you for that.
In
Is
my
there-
understanding with everybody else on the board, what you guys are basically saying that once that street going north and south connects down to Street H, you guys are confident that because of that connection, no one's going to use the T of Perry Street to cut through Perry because they're going to come around,
You get far better traffic.
right? Because the street's built for that kind of flow. That's why that's not a concern about how that's designed to come out on.
Perry's an oversized
Yeah.
driveway.
Plus now Perry Street residents, you'll be able to come up, make a right and a left to go to Food Line or wherever you're going and not have to go around
Okay.
past
Or-
the existing
Or
fire.
if I'm leaving and we're going to work and I have to go down the bypass,
You'll go through the town
I go
center.
through town center.
Right,
Right.
okay.
Why would I hit the light? Right?
Okay.
I would just come through here. And
Okay.
come. If I'm headed down into Food Line or Publix or anything like that, I go out, turn left, and I'm out.
Okay.
Yep. Any other questions?
It creates a moment where it's far easier to avoid anything in that area except for those two roads.
So then the only real concern that I have now, given that kind of conversation, is to what you brought up, which is when and how are these going to get connected so that the temptation that they've been dealing with now isn't something that is a part of this project?
Well, the way I'm hearing the plan, the town's gonna build, or at least push dirt, my favorite saying, in the
Street H.
Right, all this area, if the site's prepped, when the final plot is done for this new division, if it's approved, right? Okay, here's the road, we know where the road is. All you're building is a little connector. You're not doing all that other work, and you know exactly where it's gonna be, so you can match that up pretty quick. I don't wanna build that road, because then I'm limiting whatever they're gonna do on their plot, or if somebody else does their plot. If they wanna move that road somewhere else.
Oh, yeah, I totally get that. Right. I guess my question then to you, Eric, is there going to be some sort of, I don't know if it's a condition or the way you guys do things to make sure that no CO is issued until that connection is created?
I think that can be a recommendation of our
You,
approval.
you follow what I'm saying?
That could be a recommendation. Let's remember though that this project, as shown on the screen, did not even trigger a TIA under the town's ordinance.
Understood, but do you understand my question though, right? Is that I would not want a CO issued until that street is connecting down to Street H. Because then I think that's what your point was, right? Is like if you don't have that connector in place,
You can make the recommendation, but then you're depending on a third party, because that's the town's property to build that road.
And the town's committed that they're going to build it.
I
So,
understand
but
that.
that
Things change.
puts the developer working with the town to ensure that it happens. But I think it's a reasonable
It's a reasonable
recommendation.
Is that-
request. I don't think it can.
I feel like it's,
I mean, just to make sure that, just to make sure that Perry Street never has that unnecessary use again.
I feel like it's a reasonable.
Does that make
I think
sense?
it's a request. I
Recommendation.
just don't know if it's enforceable. And the
Fair.
reason why it's that is you're depending on the town performing an act, and there's no obligation for them to do so.
Well, I think they have an obligation because they took funding from,
I'm not a lawyer,
right?
but I'm literally telling you, I've had this kind of conversations elsewhere.
Okay.
The connection from the developer, if the developer were to choose, if you were to make a recommendation that they consider a condition for timing, they're only responsible for what's on their property.
Right.
So yes, it would be up to the town to make that the rest of the connection, the rest of the way. But it is certainly something you could suggest you'd like to see a condition related to the timing of when that collector is built,
So you're holding,
but only on their property.
to me, if I'm the other side of the contract, then I'm turning around and saying, you're holding me hostage based on the town performing an action that they have no obligation to do. In other words, if I have built this property, I've built all this information, I've invested all this money. The town's like, oh, we don't have money to build this connector yet, so I can't issue a new CO and make my money back.
So you're saying the complete connection. I'm sorry. I think that you can ask that they would build the road on their property. But they
no,
can't control what the town does. Is that what you're suggesting? Yes.
Right.
No, I'm sorry. I wasn't being clear. I understand what you're saying now.
Okay,
Yes, you could make a suggestion that they could potentially consider a condition about timing of building that collector street
and then we still also have the,
to their property line.
right, and I'm assuming this is more or less a moot point, but the Army Corps of Engineers has to approve going across the wetlands, and do we foresee that being a problem? Because we've got two variables right now that really can squash the whole idea of approving this connector, and that's what gets concerning to me, is we can approve something, but then if the Army Corps of Engineers says no, and the town runs out of money, then Perry Street is now
And that could potentially kill their project, so that may not be something they'd be considering.
Is that something the applicant could address, the likelihood of the permitting from the Corps?
Or the limitation on CO issuance before these two new collector roads are
Yeah.
functioning. To your point, that so traffic.
They have, the applicant has already proposed a condition related to the building of it with approval, so.
Yeah, they said, I think if I recall, and they can verify, but I think they said if the town is willing to build that road up, they're going to, right now, my understanding is they're only going to stub out right at the edge of that tree line until the town commits to building the connector and we get the Army Corps of Engineers to approve. You see what I'm saying? That's what worries me, is like you got two big variables that make actually the second connection, to your point, questionable.
I think as we move forward, I would want to see the recommendation that it would be stubbed to the property line. I feel like the Army Corps permit is attainable, but I'll let them address that.
And I think whether that condition says, we'll build to the stream unless the Army Corps of Engineers approves the stream crossing, that's going to be the case whether we have a condition that says we'll build to the property line or not. The Army Corps is still going to have to approve that stream crossing, whether.
Correct. But the problem becomes a situation where what is the alternate plan if they, for whatever reason, say no, or the town says, no, we don't want to build that road anymore? Then where do we go? What do you guys do with the project?
See what you're saying.
You kind of stub it out right there, and then you only have one way in, one way out, and then you have people going through the Perry Road. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
That's what my concern is about those two variables.
Okay, well, we don't have any answers to that tonight, but obviously we can, work internally to figure out, is there a condition that, creates sort of a fallback plan or another point of access if that collector road doesn't get extended to the property boundary?
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's,
absolutely, and that could just be another condition, honestly, if the collector street doesn't get built to the property line, then we, if the Board of Commissioners sees it this way, School Street's there. I don't know if that's, something that they would be open to, but we could take a look at those options. It's not, I'm not an engineer, but just based on, looking at the plan as it exists today, it doesn't seem like a big undertaking to take that northern cul-de-sac and just extend it to School Street. But again, we've heard plenty of times
not to
that
go
we
there.
don't want any
Yeah,
more
right.
traffic on School Street. So again, we'll take all of that into consideration. And if there's a sort of a condition that can thread that needle, then I think we're open to providing that.
Okay.
Just haven't had a chance to kind of explore that yet or know if that was going to be a major concern. But now that we do, we'll take a look.
Yeah, and I think if we move forward, well, that's part of their permitting process. That's what I was gonna say. I think for that condition, I would just like to see it stated that it is stubbed to the property line, and they would just have to get the appropriate permits.
I agree. I mean,
If there's no other impacts on the site, then I wouldn't think it would be a problem to have one stream crossing.
right. And I think, personally, I think it sort of restates another step in the approval process that you're going to have to get,
Mhm.
whether you have it worded the way we have it now, or if you just say we're going to take it to the southern property line.
Yeah, and I think if
It's half dozen or six. It's kind of one
I
of those.
feel like if it was approved stating to the south property line, and for some reason they didn't get the permits, then they would have to come back to staff and potentially the commissioners to
Yeah.
submit a revised plan at that
Right.
point in time.
Right.
Things like that are always variables in construction. It looks good on paper, but at the end of the day, you can hit something underground that you don't know is there as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think all of those suggestions, I think we can find some solution to, that collector street. We can reword that condition and offer some sort of alternative if the collector street, for whatever reason, does not, make it all the way to Street 8.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
No.
Hearing none, the floor is open for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of rezoning application REZ-25-05 because it is consistent with Rolesville's comprehensive plan. And I also state that if you would like to attach a sentence recommended connection of those two streets, that would be all right.
I would, thank you. We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. All right, item number 3, the LDO text amendment update.
Thank you. I'll try to make these brief. We've had some really good discussion tonight, which is always good. I do want to be mindful of your time. At the moment, we've got several text amendments in formulation. This first one, 2507, this is a staff-created one for the Section 6.1 sign ordinance of the LDO. Through some input from the board, we've already taken some draft language and some topics of discussion to the Town Board of Commissioners. So we've turned this into a real text amendment. We may take this back to a work session, but idealized, we would bring this to your next planning board meeting as an actual ordinance with red line amendments to Section 6.1. And we'll do a full, analysis and run through all the pieces to that and kind of some of the history as to why we'll do that. I'll jump to the other text amendment there, 2506 first. This is applicant initiated. It kind of has two components. It seeks to create a new use called self-storage enclosed. And if you've seen these in the communities around here, this is the larger, taller buildings with internally accessed, usually air-conditioned spaces, et cetera. They look more like larger office buildings, et cetera. There's almost no evidence that it's a storage unit from the exterior. So it's one of those types of uses that Rolesville's code was simply silent to. Not that it didn't permit it, but it didn't specify it. Because self-storage is couched under light industrial use and only permitted in the general industrial zoning district. And this town has very little zoning for that. And so attaining or building that is almost near to impossible in Rolesville today without getting a successful rezoning to industrial zoning. So an applicant has sought to create that brand new use. Then the second part of their request is to expand the use of a development agreement within the neighborhood center zoning district. There's already a clause in there that allows you to propose a development agreement to the Board of Commissioners, but it limits you to modifying just 3 development standards. Like it's lot size and building setback or something like that. They wish to expand that by several items. So, and staff's recommendation is actually to take all the reins off what can be modified and give the developer the opportunity to ask the Board of Commissioners to modify any standards within the NC zoning district's table of development standards. So anything in the table there as to how to build and construct in the NC district would be open for an applicant to ask. Now, a development agreement is a separate legislative application that the Board of Commissioners has complete control over. So this is not a change for a by right development standard. It completely just opens up the playbook there for a developer to ask for a much broader, full development agreement for an NC district. Staff's actually suggesting that maybe all 3 of the mixed-use zoning districts be given this opportunity as well. If it works for one mixed-use district, why not all 3? So that's still in formulation. This will come back to the board on October 9th for some more feedback. And then recently, staff presented some maps that outlined the existing zoning on the Main Street corridor, so from Jonesville Road out to Young Street and a little beyond, analyzing that general commercial zoning that's out there. And there's 3 or 4 iterations of it. Conditional zoning that has actual conditions on prohibited uses or permitted uses, some development standards. Some of these are from the past, and when I say the past, the last decade or so, from the 2010s and so forth. And then a lot of conditional zonings have been approved, come through this planning board in, my time here, the last 4 years, under the LDO. And so there's a lot of properties out there that have conditional zoning from the more modern LDO era as well. So we've analyzed all of that, and that gets to the question of, and it kind of dovetails with that applicant initiated there for self-storage enclosed, kind of where does zoning exist today that would permit a certain use? And so now we can answer that with some firmness. And so we can do that analysis. Where's a certain use permitted? We can go through the general commercial zoning entitlement properties and tell you yes on this one, no on this one, yes on this one, et cetera. Or work backwards and just say, where's the zoning that allows this type of use? So that's been an effort that's really created a nice tool for us to do some analysis. And while general commercial is not the only non-residential zoning district, this town really has very few other properties that are zoned any other district than general commercial. There's very few of the others, just 1 or 2 OPs, office and professional and so forth. So really the focus in that exercise was to identify the general commercial zoning that's on the ground, and then where would potential uses be permitted within any of those properties. So for if it's okay, Mr. Chairman, to move to the
Yeah, I
next
had
item.
one question on the
okay.
on the LDO. I mean, going back to the development agreement on the NC districts, and you mentioned about kind of pulling back the reins on the limiting.
Right now it's limited. You can only modify a few certain things.
What's the staff's reason for kind of opening that up a little more? Is that to encourage more commercial development, or just trying to be more user-friendly to the plans?
So the land development ordinance was created with no planned unit development types. Very strict and rigid. There's the conditional zoning option that you can ask to rezone for any district, but all you can do in a conditional zoning is do above and beyond the minimums that the code already has. Commit to a larger setback, not ask for a lesser setback in exchange for something else. Now, the mixed-use districts are inherently different. They have a host of different standards. They're more urban-centric than suburban-centric, which is what really all of the residential and the non-residential districts are very suburban style, with large setbacks, large buffer yards, things of that nature. The mixed-use districts are meant for more intense development. And within that, there are some allowances. And so this existing standard that allows you to do a development agreement, I think it's in the timing of development section there. It's a lead into some more inventive zoning to get a more inventive product or project. So staff's position is, if it's good to expand for a few more standards that the applicant wishes, why not consider allowing a developer to ask for all of the standards here to be modified? It's going back to potentially a planned unit development type of zoning possibility, completely controlled by the board. First off, there's no land zoned in a neighborhood center or a town center or an activity center. They're brand new districts that were created with the land development ordinance. So there's nobody who has a by right to those districts. So any property would have to go through a rezoning first. Then they'd have to ask for a separate development agreement as well to modify the standards. But we think we get very project-based rezonings right now. If this were to happen, you would get even more project-based rezonings, because people would be clearly showing you, say the standard setback was 20 foot. I want to modify that to 15. Here's exactly how that would be, and this is what the product would look like, or how it would impact something else, some other standard. So we would be getting very more detail-oriented projects. And there could be a pro to that for the town. But again, it's an option. This would not be a text amendment that gives anybody any by right.
And would those developer agreements come before the planning board, or just goes directly to town commissioners?
They're legislative. They would come before the planning board.
Okay.
Usually they would be piggybacked with a rezoning. Because usually because again, this is the NC district, or again, if it gets widened to all 3 zoning districts, the mixed use districts, they don't exist today. So they would all be coming through as a rezoning. And I would anticipate the developers would also ask for the development agreement in parallel or piggyback with the rezoning request.
So the concept plans we're seeing now with a rezoning may be a little more detailed.
Precisely, right,
Okay.
exactly. Because you'd have to get down to the specificity of, say, a 20-foot setback wishing to be reduced to a 10. We would demand that you show that in a drawing. Whereas right now, we stay a little higher level, little kind of 1,000 foot, this would be down to the street level.
All right, thank you. All right, if there's no other questions, we'll move to communications.
The planning director's report. We are just a week or so away of fully implementing, we are go live, but we're fully implementing GovWell. This is the town's online platform, or you've heard this called permit portal in a lot of other communities. Mr. Moss, you work in this field, so you know what those words mean in other communities. It is the town's online platform or portal for management of development applications. This is everything from annexation petitions through final subdivision plats and all those things in between, including rezoning. So the rezoning cases and the text amendments that you all will see will be managed in GovWell. So the applicant will submit through that permit portal. Their fees will be generated there. They'll make payments through there. All the comment and response will be housed and captured within that platform under that application, et cetera. All the files will be saved there. If you're familiar with the town's development projects web pages, which we maintain, and we've been using that as the tool in lieu of a proper platform like this, those will kind of cease to be the go-to source for information. GovWell will be the go-to source for development applications. This will also be the hosting platform for the smaller in-house permits that we do that are kind of more zoning only related and not building code at all. So think food truck permits, home occupation permits, change of tenant permits. Those are kind of the 3 that just jump to mind. But there's a half a dozen or so others that the town had to host internally or ourselves prior to right now with GovWell. And one very clear thing that we're going to work very hard to make clear is that this is not about building permits. So the town's in an interlocal agreement with Wake County, and their building permits and inspections folks, they do building code in Rolesville, okay? This is not building permits. This is kind of everything but building permits. So all the zoning and land use entitlements that we do, site plans, construction drawings, all the legislative things that come before this board, those are all going to be managed and housed within GovWell. And then again, some of the smaller routine things that never go beyond the planning department office, like a home occupation permit. So those will all be there.
Quick question, when you go into that site, do you log in as a guest, or do you have to have a log? I'm just saying, if anybody wanted to
I
look
believe
at
there's a guest function that you can do. You have to be a member. Okay.
so you have to sign in.
Yeah.
I didn't know if there was, I did look at it a little bit and didn't see a guest, so I just thought about that, but yeah.
Okay. A lot of programs that I've used or known in the past, they did have a guest function. You could knock and you could get in and you could see through the window, but you couldn't really get in. You could see enough to kind of glean your interest, but yeah, if you wanted to like download a file, you would have to set up an account, sign in, and then when you do that, you are tracked, and it's just that tracking mechanism of the volume and activity in there. So, but it is an open, transparent platform, meaning.
I know, so the development projects page is gonna go away, and it's all gonna be on there, or no?
They're gonna cease being that one source where staff uploads the files to them. They're public records, obviously, but they're very transparent there. The comments go there, et cetera. I send the links to the developers, and they go there to pick up their comments and download them from there. So all that will be done through GovWell. I do hope that the development projects web pages stay as memorial stations for the final approvals of projects and for future reference. And we have dozens and dozens and dozens of projects and subdivisions that don't have a representative page now. I hope to fix that, to get those final documents that we unearth, we get them up there, we name them, we reference them, we give some benchmark dates in there. So we can really build a good history tool out of those development project websites. But the day-to-day meat and potatoes work of reviewing and getting to approval will all be switching to GovWell.
Okay, thanks.
What's it? Oh, yes. Sorry. One of the cool tools about it, and according to our design people there, really only came online very, very, very recently, was that it has an AI tool. So like so many websites you go to, a little box pops up. Hi, do you have a question? Like they do at the car dealerships. They try to sell you a car through their little AI bot. You can ask it questions, and it's intuitive and it learns. And so every time someone asks a question, it pulls information, through AI technology and generates an answer. And when it can't, it actually asks staff for help to answer that. And so we can go in on the back end and help it answer a question. And then next time it's improved. So it's kind of like a growing organism where staff will help it learn and answer questions. And we've already gotten a few reports from this, and it's been successful. The one report was 83% of the time on the inquiries that it got. It felt that it provided the answers necessary. It wasn't stumped, so to speak. So that is a very cool tool. That is going to be the first line of help for a customer, is to work with the AI. Ask the AI the question, see if it can give you the answer. Then there are real people on support who will, if you hit a number or you hit a button, and they'll get back to you within just several minutes. And then on staff for the kind of third line of assistance with the GovWall system. But hopefully the AI feature will answer most questions, and then there is customer service through the system as well. Moving to some recent TRC activity volumes. I looked at it just before the meeting. From January through this past month, I think the average was 15 applications per month, and that's a pretty average and a pretty high volume. That means a resubmittal or a new submittal of any type of application that TRC reviews. So it could be annexations, rezonings, construction drawings, preliminary subdivisions. That volume has been steadily high, and so just wanted to kind of share that with you. Building permit activity. I had a slide. I'm for sake of time, I won't get into that, but I do believe that increase volumes. I mean, year over year, month over month. Yeah, the Point subdivision is driving a lot of that. They've recorded a lot of lots and are actively building very heavily down there. I know that one very well. Yeah, Kalis Phase 1. D.R. Horton is building there. They're moving rather quickly there also. And yeah, I think those are kind of our two hotbeds right now for residential permitting. CO activity at Cobblestone is coming to a close, and then Walbrook down the road there very fast. You've seen all the signs go up. So some of the signs are up before the tenants get their COs, but that's fine. So we're about to have a Verizon store. Great Clips, I think, is open. Another restaurant will be opening there soon. So those are continuing. The pediatric in the building to the south of the Publix is open. I think that's the only tenant in that building. And then finally, I wanted to hit on the development activity sites. You've seen by Sonic scooters on the left side, that coffee shop is, the building is getting enclosed as we speak. And then ground is broken on the other corner, which is going to be a learning center daycare. So those are two projects right there that you can't avoid if you're up on that side of Main Street. And within the last few weeks at Walbrook, several lots have gone under clearing and grading. One will be hosting the 7-Eleven that's across the street from Publix, kind of opposite there, and then a little bit farther north of there, clearing for, one of the lots doesn't have an end user, but the other one is the Hall of Fame car wash. And they were blowing and going this afternoon, I just saw.
Pushing dirt and blasting again on Rolesville Road.
And they are, okay. Broadmoor maybe would be the,
Across for the two farms and
just south of Fowler Road.
The old
Just below
Woodlift
Fowler
Road,
Road?
Broadmoor now, Broadmoor.
That's called Broadmoor, yeah, just south of there. They would be at that stage. Rolesville Crossing is the one further south of there, also fronts on Mitchell Mill Road. They're getting very close to recording their first plat. So they should be doing curbs and streets and having their utilities inspected. So that one's probably the next one to get permits and start coming up out of the ground down there. So we got Point at the top, Kalis Falls Phase 1 there, and then Rolesville Crossing would be the next one to start to sprout houses. Yeah.
wonderful with all the dirt because it's so dry.
Yeah.
They don't do a good job of
Dust.
spraying dust,
Yes.
dust control.
Yes. Please don't hesitate to put in a report of concern. We had that last year at some point when we went through a mini drought of some vicious dust. Yeah. So that concludes my director's report.
All right, thank you. Town attorney's report.
I do not have anything to report. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other business from the board? All right, hearing none, the floor is open for a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? Oh, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
All right.